is that part of our cells that is going to do all these chemical transmutations that are going to help us find the philosopher's stone, or the fountain of youth, or the pearl of great price, or whatever metaphor they used to indicate the search that they were doing for the elixir. Anyway, the alchemist had to have a retort, this glass flask, this vessel, where the first thing you're going to do is the experiments on the materia, the prima materia, which is the gunk. And so what is the thing that we put in there? Well, the first thing we do is we subject it to heat, because the container is a furnace for carrying out this process. And that's what it's described as, a glass container with a long neck used in distilling liquids and other chemical operations. So we separate out ingredients. You know, the first thing you do in science is you heat something and you find out what it's made of as a result of subjecting it to that flame. So we're doing the experiments here, and although it looks like it's doing it outwardly, it's actually something you're doing inside on yourself. So then we have to realize alchemy comes in so many different forms. The Chinese had their own version of it. The Europeans, especially Paracelsus, one of the modern fathers of chemistry, observation was more important than just simply interpreting other people's texts. The Arabs had their own form of alchemy. The Hindus had their own form of alchemy. The Egyptians had their own form of alchemy. And of course, they all tried to square the circle within the triangle, within the other bigger circle. That's the philosopher's stone, the circle squared. So those were interesting ideas about 4 within the 3. The circle is 0, contained within a bigger circle. Got to figure that out. Anyway, this is about turning lead into gold, the base material into something that is of unsurpassing excellence, as if we have something lead in us that can become golden as well. So the primary material, we call it the gunk of our life. That's what you have to work with, the stuff you'd rather avoid, the stuff that bogs you down, that has you trapped, the stuff that's dark, not seen clearly, neglected, avoided. Well, exactly, that's the perfect place to start. So here's 3 different processes called negrido, the blackening, where the putrefaction happens, the stuff that's decaying and smelling. And of course, eventually it's going to become like fertilizer that you put on the ground and enrich the ground. And then this is where you confront your shadow by doing this. The stuff that, it's not nice, doesn't sound good, doesn't feel good, doesn't smell good, and it doesn't look good, but it's there. And just like in photography, with no negative, the positive can't develop. Then you have the albedo, which is the whitening process, the purification process, the way the things get rid of the waste, the dross, like in a refining fire, everything is burned out except the gold. And this is an image from the story of the lindworm, where the dragon eats his bride every night, except for the smart woman who comes in and forces the dragon to shed one of its skins as she sheds each one of her pieces of clothing. And each time the dragon sheds a skin, she scrubs him with lye, and he screams until he's left like a little clean worm. Anyway, nobody wants to go through the process of purification, but it really takes you down to basics, cleans you out. So all the washing images, cleansing images, anointing images, sanctifying images, ironing images, all about making things straight, neatening them up, cleaning them up. Very important. Then comes the reddening, the heating of the experiment. This is where you get real. And obviously you could say that your heating up could be at the beginning. And by like really working it, all of a sudden that charcoals at everything, and then everything then becomes dark and black, right? But anyway, that's the other way. You heat the experiment, something happens as a result. So here's the alchemist in his thing using little billows to find out what happens if you add some oxygen to it. And that's what they're pursuing, the philosopher's stone, the touch at which gives you immortal life, as well as knowledge and wisdom. So another symbol of that is Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. That's eternity eating itself, the myth of eternal return. And it's within the 5-star pentagram of the mages. So other images of the balance that happens, the sun and the moon, male and female, sol and luna. The sacred marriage is another way of talking about it, the hieros gamos. Carl Jung called it the conjunctio oppositorum, the conjunction of opposites, right? The perfect blend, the harmony, the complementarity, interesting these two different images of the male and female side, the light and the dark side. The hermaphrodite, Hermes and Aphrodite, or the king and queen. Notice the sun and the moon again. Here's Mercury on the top, and the two caduceus, which is what Hermes used to carry. Shiva Shakti, there's the Indian version of it, the balancing of the male and female principles, or the active and the passive part. So that's a little taste of what happens when you're working with those multiple forces to try to bring about a certain unity and balance between the two.